Greetings, YouTube. India Clarke was murdered in Tampa, Florida, suffering trauma to the upper body, blunt force trauma. And that's a tragedy. The fact that this is the 9th transgender woman of color to be murdered this year is being seen as an epidemic by some. But there's an additional tragedy here, and that tragedy is how the police are handling this case. Because they're misgendering India Clarke. Calling India Clarke a man, using India Clarke's former male name, and referring to India Clarke as a man in a dress. They are also insinuating that this potentially has to do with sex work that India Clarke may have engaged in at some point in the past. What I don't quite grasp here is how they think this is going to help them to gain information from the public. Said, we are not going to categorize him as transgender. Why not? India Clarke identified as a woman. All of the photos on India Clarke's Facebook page present her as a woman, and she used female pronouns. India Clarke was a transgender woman. I'm not seeing the complexities here. India Clarke's death is a tragedy that is made worse by egregious misgendering by local police and media. I mean, they're looking for people to help them, which is awesome. But how are they going to get people to help them if they don't speak to the community that India was a member of in a manner that is going to be encouraging them to come forward? If they're telling the transgender community, well, we're not going to think you view as legitimate people, do you think people are going to come forward to help? There's a line in here where they're worried about semantics. Yeah, we would hope that people would have the decency to come forward rather than worry about semantics about how we label someone at this point of investigation. Screw you, deputy dog! If I'm murdered and you start referring to me as a woman, that's wrong. I'm not a woman. India Clarke was a woman, and you should be referring to her as a woman. Referring to her as a man isn't going to help your investigation, and it isn't empty semantics. People are dying because they are trans. That is a really big thing. That's amazing. That should be like red lights flashing, blaring klaxons. Why are so many trans people being killed in America, particularly trans women of color? Why is that happening? Well, Deputy Dog doesn't seem to know. It doesn't seem to be all that important to him. We're just gonna call him whatever we feel like it. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna disrespect this person because it's convenient. Now, I realize that there's a difference between male and female and man and woman. Male and female are biological descriptions. I get that. But even that isn't binary. But gender identity, man and woman, is a very large spectrum, including those who are gender fluid and who are agender. There are people all over that spectrum, and all of them deserve equal respect. And you don't use the incorrect pronouns if you're going to show respect. So these cops are showing to the whole world that they could give a rat's ass about India Clarke. They're not interested in finding an India Clarke killer. They're not interested in finding the decency of their own to show her that respect that she deserves, that she deserved in life and now she deserves in death. They're making this a farce. A tragic farce. all because they will not treat someone the way they deserve to be treated. If someone asks you to call them he or she, do it. Don't argue. Don't fight it. Just do it. Someone asks you to call them they, call them they. They and them are perfectly appropriate to singulars. It is not necessarily always a plural. This really isn't that complex. It's an act of respect. And these cops are showing the whole world that they have zero respect for India Clarke.